Hi, I'm Cynthia Schiller. Please like and subscribe. We're going to talk about Munchausen syndrome, which is also now known as a fictitious disorder. And I'm going to do the one imposed on self. We'll talk about imposed on another in a different video. But this one, the thing with narcissism is sometimes we're just looking for the exact definition of somebody who is a narcissist. But a lot of times there's comorbidity in these mental illnesses. So there can be some things that can either overlap, they can flip-flop between different disorders based on what's going on chemically in their brain. Sometimes it's the stressors from life, but Munchausen, like I said, is now called fictitious disorder imposed on self. We're doing the self one. And that's when somebody wants to get attention or sympathy. And the way that they get it is they will start to falsify things such as inducing certain kinds of illnesses within themselves. They will exaggerate an illness and often lie about their symptoms. So one thing with this is it gets a little tricky to where they have such a desire for sympathy or attention that they can even sabotage medical tests. Maybe they'll put some blood in urine or blood in their stool. They can even harm themselves, whether they damage their body. And when we're trying to diagnose Munchausen, it's often difficult because the person is so dishonest that we don't know what to believe. So there are some things that we can be aware of, but the people that go through this, they act this way because they just need to be seen as being ill or injured. So it's not like they want to get, a medication. It's not like a drug addiction to where they're faking, I don't know, migraine so they can get not morphine, but something like that, where they're trying to trick just for like a drug addiction. It has nothing to do with that. It's not like a financial gain, like a workman's comp case that they're over exaggerating it. So this is different because they're not trying to get out of work. That's not their purpose. They might get out of work because of it, but the main purpose is to have attention. Now, some of this might be something from their childhood where that's when they got attention, and it worked for them. So they often can go under a lot of unnecessary medical tests, operations, just to kind of have the sympathy, whether it's from the staff members or family members. They might fake a cancer so they can shave their heads. They might purposely lose weight so they look possibly anorexic because they'll say they're going through chemotherapy when they're not. It's just to get attention, and sometimes too they can get as extreme as using a rubber band to where they'll cut off circulation to a limb. Some people might resort to burning themselves, poisoning themselves just to get attention, just to manipulate the medical system enough to sometimes they might feel they need to prove it to family members. They might purposely cause an infection, make it worse. So if they had like like an accidental, it has happened to all of us. You open a can or you're cutting vegetables, you accidentally cut yourself. So they might purposely try to cause an infection within that wound. So they might even purposely eat like food poisoning type foods. So they might leave potato salad out in the hot sun for a while and then eat it to purposely get sick, just in order to get the attention. And so this Munchausen syndrome was named after a person called Baron von Munchausen, and that was an 18th century officer in Germany. And he was known for embellishing the stories of his life. And many people with this kind of problem, this disorder, it's related to, a physical illness. Sometimes, they might have certain symptoms, chest pain, stomach problems. And while some of these symptoms are caused by themselves, it can happen. You might have a fever because you ate that rotten potato salad. But the other ones that embellish it even more are exaggerated. So they might start to say, that they have blurred vision when they don't, that they might lie, say they've had all these symptoms like chronic migraines. You can't really prove that all the time. They can talk about some weakness or a shakiness. They might say, oh, I've vomited 16 times a day, and certain things that you can't prove. And a lot of times you got to be careful, because when they're in the hospital, you might think that they're telling you that they've had diarrhea consistently for the last 3 weeks and it's nonstop. So you're trying to take care of them. So the nurse will do, maybe give an IV of fluids, or increase possible potassium for potassium loss, trying to take care of these symptoms. And then you're like, you haven't had diarrhea once since you've been here. Or they'll try to hide it and they'll lie about it, like, oh, I just went, you missed it, I flushed the toilet. So their symptoms don't always match up with whether it's tests or the things that the medical professionals are witnessing. So the people that often get Munchausen is more often females. Like in narcissism, as far as what's been diagnosed, not all narcissists come forward with the truth. Same thing with Munchausen. People lie, and that's what makes it so difficult to diagnose, to treat. So this can vary the statistics, because if you're sitting here thinking, how common, how likely is it that my person has this disorder, that disorder? So in 2013, per 100,000 patients, there was 7 cases. So it is a little bit rarer, but often sometimes things just don't get seen, or diagnosed as a mental illness, because they can fool people for years. And often it can be risky to where they could accidentally, something goes wrong. That potato salad had botulism or something, and it just took their life. So sometimes that's how it gets missed too. And if they do an autopsy, it's like, oh, well, of course it was a bad potato salad, when they're missing that this person is inducing these kind of illnesses or disabilities. Some of them, they will have physical attributes to it. Others, the testing and all these tests they go through, nothing is being diagnosed. So it baffles the medical professionals. And, when it's Munchausen by proxy, we'll talk about that one. I'll go ahead and do that now. It's also known as a fictitious disorder, which is imposed on another. So often you're going to start to see FDIA for when it's done to somebody else. So it's often a mother. Fathers can do it too, to their children. It can also be elder abuse, where the person is putting a fictitious, a fake, false illness onto the elder. So the abuser is seen as a wonderful person for taking care of this person, or people feel sorry for the abuser of having to go through these great lengths of time commitment. And, maybe they'll start bringing over food, or they'll chip in money. And it's just the attention. It's not even necessarily the food or the money. They feel loved at that time, in their skewed thinking. So it's definitely abuse, and it's just so sad. So there are some things. This is kind of something that I came across, Munchausen syndrome by internet. This is a little different, and So this is where the online community has groups for people with physical, emotional health issues. And it's supposed to be a safe place for people who have some kind of disorder. And that's where they can get tips and provide support. Some of these supports might include like leukemia patients, cancer patients, all different walks of life, breast cancer. And sometimes people will pretend to be sick. They just want to talk. They just want to be heard. And so if Munchausen syndrome by internet, that's how crazy this is getting. These mental illnesses are expanding out to now we even have it by internet. So, you know, they might say that their symptoms are worse than somebody else. So if I don't know, you said you had breast cancer and you had some tenderness, and the person with this Munchausen will say, oh, I had tenderness too, but I also had bleeding and discharge, and you know, I'm scared I'm going to have a double mastectomy. I probably will. Things like that, where they try to one up. So people are like, oh my goodness, I'll be praying for you, and they just feel cared about in a weird way. So a lot of times in whether it's online or in person, a lot of times they'll claim that they've nearly died or did die and came back to life. So they'll often do a lot of contradictions in the things that they'll say. It's not going to make sense. They'll often lie about hospital visits, how long that they stayed, because they were probably never even admitted. You know, and it's to where it gets out of hand, and they'll start to you know, be in these groups. And I'm in like a teacher group, and there are times, and I don't think this is like a mental disorder, that people genuinely are like, you know, my husband had a heart attack last week, and you know, so people do reach out. You know, we do reach out, whether we're mentally ill or totally stable. Sometimes we have a hard time in life, but they know that works. They know that works. So they might make up some horrible story just for the feedback from people. We're starting to get addicted to these likes. It strokes our ego with these Facebook or Instagram. You just want to be seen in this world. So, you know, what causes it? So it doesn't really seem to be genetically achieved. It's unknown exactly what causes it. A lot of researchers think that it's due to physical factors, which can kind of make this syndrome surface. Some think there might be a history of abuse as a child or neglect. So like I had said in the beginning, maybe there's some frequent illnesses requiring hospitalization. You know, I don't have this, but I have told you guys before, I'm a burn victim. I know I got away with some stuff. I got some ice cream whenever I wanted because I needed fluid. So I was like, that's kind of cool. Like this works. I was 5 years old. But, you know, so they can think like, yeah, if I do that, I got some gifts. The whole family came over when I came home, and they might, something in their mind might trigger it to where that was kind of cool. You know, or people were, because that was on my birthday. Like I said, I don't have it. Like I'm okay with it, but it was on my birthday, and it was cool that I got 2 birthdays, because when I got released from the hospital 6 months later, we had a whole new birthday party because I never got to finish my party. So I got gifts twice. And so people, if they've had some severe neglect, which I didn't, but if they've had severe neglect or abuse, they might be like, you know, I don't know how else to get this attention. So they'll latch onto it. And some of these symptoms, you know, they'll have inconsistent medical history that is pretty dramatic. And, you know, it's things that a lot of times will change as, you know, the doctor starts putting forth some treatment. Let's say let's say I had it. Okay, I don't, but let's say I had Munchausen. So I lie. I say I get migraines to where I can't even function, and it's, you know, interfering with my relationships and my relationships with my kids. And so the doctor starts giving you some treatments. Maybe it's a certain kind of medications, and the doctor knows if you have a certain whatever after, you know, 10 days, or it should, even if it's a lifelong medication that you need, your symptoms should subside, at least somewhat. So then this Munchausen person is going to change. Like, I know, but now I have ringing in my ears because the headaches are so bad, and it's not. So they'll start adding on, they'll start twisting and turning. The doctors will be like, and I don't know the exact medical on this, but let's say it's false. So the doctors will be like, you should not have ringing in the ears. You should not have vertigo and dizziness, which you might, but let's say, like I said, it's not a symptom. The doctor's going to be like, what is going on? So then they're going to try to do the vertigo or the ringing in the ears. So they treat that, and it should subside. It should take care of it. And then they're going to start saying that maybe they're allergic to the medication, or it's starting to give them arthritis. They'll read the contraindications, which are the side effects. So they'll start making up that they're having some of these contraindications. They'll over exaggerate their side effects. So, you know, they'll often have really good medical terminology. And I've been to nursing school, so if I have good terminology, that's what happened with me. But they have a medical knowledge. It could be, they could have possibly had a job in the medical field. They could have had something to where, you know, also my family has a medical background. So they can look it up on the internet. So they know when they go into the doctor's office, let's say, I don't know, let's say dehydration is a symptom of whatever. So they'll purposely not drink so they can prove that they're dehydrated. Little things like that. So people with Munchausen, often you can see, like if you're trying to predict if your person possibly has this, or if this is what's going on with a family member, there'll be a lot of surgical scars. And just be aware of that. Like for me, you know, I do have burn scars, so there's going to be quite a few. So take that into consideration. Also, you know, I blew my knee out, so I have a scar there. Like things happen in people's lives, but if it's too many surgical scars to where they were adamant about having what we could say gallbladder, appendix, different things taken out, you know, they just will continue to add on additional symptoms, even if they have negative results, because they know just going into the doctors gives them attention. People are like, oh my gosh, she's back in the hospital again. And eventually you got to try to prove it, but you're going to suck it dry for as long as you can. And sometimes they might say that they've passed out. They can fake passing out. They might like purposely bite their tongue, say they had a seizure, but then you admit them or keep them, do an EEG, a brain scan, a brainwave on them, and there's no seizure type activity going on. And they love to have medical tests. So they're usually excited about it. Like I've never been excited about a medical exam. You know, they just want some paperwork to show like, oh, I have my discharge, but I was there for so long, all night long. And, you know, the staff, this, and so they're just be able to talk about something. People listen because they're like, wow, you almost died. And what did they do for you? And it's just attention. The focus is on them. And a lot of times it seems weird how comfortable Like they're like, oh, cool. All right, I'm in the hospital. And you know, they can, especially when they're doing it with somebody who they are abusing. They, you know, like let's say I put it on my baby where I was like, my baby's colicky, my baby can't sleep, has diarrhea, I don't know what's going on, I think my baby's going to die, and please take care of this baby. And then you know, while we're in the waiting room, I'm just kind of like talking on the phone, eating a candy bar, instead of being like all uptight and like scared to death. They kind of flip-flop on that, so be aware of signs like that. And also sometimes too, they don't want to have the healthcare people, the professionals that work in the field, to even talk to, you know, husbands, wives, family, friends, or even people from the past medical records, other healthcare providers. And it's kind of crazy. They can, you know, try to infect their IV lines. They might swallow certain medications, but they'll kind of hide them and spit them out later. And like I had said, a lot of deliberate dehydration will be observed. People can make themselves throw up, so they might be purposely making themselves throw up. Not as a bulimic thing, not as a weight loss thing. Well, sometimes it might be for weight loss to prove that they're sick, which they're not sick. But it could, you know, show that, oh my gosh, I just threw up, I think I'm sick. And if, depending on how daredevilish they are, or their medical knowledge, if they know a certain medication can have some bad effects, if you don't need it, you know, like not that they would give you the wrong medication, but as an example, if I know I have low blood pressure and I lie saying I have high blood pressure and they gave me that medication to lower my blood pressure, it would lower my real blood pressure. Luckily, that example they can prove by taking your blood pressure. But if the Munchausen person keeps coming in and they're trying everything and the doctors are believing the symptoms that they're saying, unobservable symptoms, to where, you know, you just have to go. Or even, like I said, the urine with blood in it, they can prick themselves and put it in the cup when they turn it in. So it's really hard to like treat these people. Sometimes it could be lifelong. These are usually around what is it, age 20 to 40. And like I said, it's more often in females. And the only way to rule out or diagnosis all these physical, mental illnesses have to be ruled out, considered before giving them this actual diagnosis. So there's something called hypochondria, where the person always feels like sick, like something's wrong, almost like in a panic state. But Munchausen is like deliberately doing this stuff. It's not that you feel something's wrong with you. You know, like I feel like I have a brain tumor, like I'm dizzy all the time. You don't have you just didn't get enough sleep, or you're drunk. That would be more hypochondriac. But the fictitious disorder person, Munchausen, will purposely create the illness or the fake illness. And that's why it's called factitious, because it's just totally made up just for people to come out of the woodworks to give some supply, as they put it. So it's this one, there's a criteria that needs to be met, and that's in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual on mental disorders, the DSM-5, so the 5th edition. And it's the book that is recognized for the guidance on mental illnesses within the United States. So to treat this, They need to modify their behaviors. They have to alter misusing medical resources, and they'll often have to focus on the psychological issues. There's something causing this. And to get to the root of the problem usually helps a little bit. There's no antidepressant, no antipsychotic medications that we know of that are helpful for this type of mental disorder. And it's you know, they can sometimes treat related disorders such as anxiety. If the person's feeling anxious, it's going to increase their Munchausen actions. Also depression, they're depressed, they need this affection more. So the more depressed they are, the more anxious they are. So we can use medications to calm that, to make the transition into trying to progress in life, to somewhat heal a little better. But there are some complications with this syndrome. It's scary how death can be one of them, because these people are just hurting inside, that they're hurting themselves even more. It's sad what great lengths they'll go to, what surgeries they will undergo. Even with anesthesia, there's always a risk. These surgeries that they might undergo by being forceful can always be at a risk of infection. There's always a risk of allergic reactions to certain medications that might be used in the treatment. So sometimes these people, might take it to where it's almost like a suicide. So how do people get past this? It's something that will have to be managed for the rest of this person's life. It's good to get support from healthcare providers. And the only way to prevent this is kind of unknown. Because it's really interesting. If you guys are starting to follow either my channel or some people who go a little bit deeper into the actual mental illnesses, a lot of it does relate to childhood. It's amazing how much of it relates to either childhood or some prolonged or quick but devastating trauma. Whether it's weird how like when I caught on fire, my brain shut down and I black out. It's probably, I don't even know because I wasn't there. My guess, backyard to the front yard, taking off a dress, putting on a pink and white towel. They had to chase me down. It was probably anywhere from, I don't even know, 20 minutes to an hour, something like that. Probably 40-ish minutes, maybe an hour till I got in the ambulance. But sometimes people block things out. Sometimes in childhood, could that have caused an abandonment issue? Now I'm away from my family and I'm in the hospital. So maybe somebody at a certain stage in their life, I had a really good hospital staff and my family was always there for me. They stayed with me. But there's certain things, maybe, you had a tonsillectomy and you had to be there for, an unknown amount of time because it went wrong. There's always different things, maybe the person was bullied as a child. They were scared to death by their bully. It's not always the parents. It's not always the parents. But something in childhood, or if you went off to war and, couldn't go to sleep because you thought you were going to get shot, you're hearing gunfire, different things can cause PTSD or CPST, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which a lot of us dealing with people with mental illnesses, especially like narcissists, to where our reality is unknown. Everything we've learned about somebody, everything we trusted in is crazy fake. So the outlook for these people, you know, just like the healing narcissist, there's a lot of relapse, a lot of recurring outbursts, or affection seeking. So often if they're like, this is not working, I'm starting to get depressed, the Munchausen's going to make up some disorder, some illness. So will they try, you know, this time they'll try coleslaw to get sick, or this time they'll cut something, and they can be pretty harmful to themselves, especially how much sympathy that they want from somebody, you know, because if I'm just going to cut my finger a little bit and need 3 stitches, you're like, oh, well, I'm glad you're doing better, Cynthia, just take care of it. And then even if I get it infected and you tell me to go to the doctors, now I gotta get antibiotics, dang it, it healed. But if I, you know, completely take my finger off, or, you know, half sever off my wrist, you know, I'm gonna get a lot more attention. So be aware of people that do that. They take it to the extremes. Their symptoms don't match up with the testing, and they're very adamant that something's wrong. Sometimes people definitely take it to heart, though. There are some people who know something is wrong with them. They're not hypochondriacs, they're not Munchausen. They just feel that off. So maybe it's a hidden brain tumor. Maybe it is a hidden cancer within them. So that's the other thing too. These doctors know that sometimes all these crazy symptoms might be some super, super rare disease. I wish I could remember the kid's name. He's the only one that has this disease in the world. Can't remember. It's not like Andrew's syndrome, or wish I could remember. If you guys know what I'm talking about, comment below. So there are some rare illnesses where, like, there's only one person in history who has ever had this thing, and doctors are aware of that, so they don't overlook things. But the Munchausen people are, you know, tying up medical resources. And it's all based on lies. So there's a lot of lying going on in mental illnesses just to serve a purpose. So like I said, some mental illnesses can overlap, and this kind of has some narcissistic traits within it. The lying, you know, where it's for themselves. This sounds like a vulnerable type narcissist where, you know, whether it was abuse or neglect, not the grandiose are more the ones that are built up with a fake image of who they're supposed to be. This sounds more like a vulnerable narcissistic type thing to me. And it doesn't matter what the cost is, especially if it's by proxy, where, you know, like the mother will make the child come across as sick. So I'm going to wrap it up here and do another video following this exact one on the fictitious disorder imposed on another. So I don't want to keep you guys too long. You're welcome to watch the other one right after this, or when you get a chance if you're interested. Please like and subscribe. See you in the next video.